Hello.
And welcome to the Poetry Exchange.
Very lovely to be back with you again. I'm Michael Shaeffer.
And I'm Fiona Bennett.
We have got our first Rilke poem of the Poetry Exchange podcast this month. And this is going to sound like a complete setup now, and no one will believe me, but it is actually true, that you found in your handbag this evening a copy of a book called Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. Do you just want to give a little bit of background about that book, perhaps?
Yes. This is a lovely small collection of the letters between Rilke and a young poet who wrote to him for advice. And it was given to me, actually, at Christmas, and so that's why it happened to be in my bag. And I read it a long time ago, or read the letters a long time ago. And then I couldn't believe it coming here today that I happened to have this rather beautiful small version of the letters in my bag, and that I was going to be meeting you to talk about Rilke. So
it was meant to be, Faye.
I think it was meant to be. And there were so many bits that were just striking me as being just beautifully expressed and incredibly arresting, really, about what you do with your life, about where ideas come from, about how we connect with ourselves and the purpose of living. So like this bit, which is kind of in the first letter back to the poet, I'll just give you a little bit of this, Michael. So Rilke says to the young poet, "You ask whether your verses are good. You ask me that. You have asked others before. You send them to magazines, you compare them with other poems, and you worry when certain editors turn your efforts down. Let me ask you to give up all that. You are looking to the outside, and that above all you should not be doing now. Nobody can advise you and help you. Nobody. There is only one way. Go into yourself. Examine the reason that bids you to write. Check whether it reaches its roots into the deepest region of your heart. This above all. Ask yourself in your night's quietest hour, must I write? Admit to yourself whether you would die if it should be denied you to write. Dig down into yourself for a deep answer. And if it should be affirmative, if it is given to you to respond to this serious question with a loud and simple I must, then construct your life according to this necessity."
Brilliant, I love that. So we recorded this conversation a little while ago now in the John Ryland's library in Manchester. We're going to be going back to Manchester soon. We'll tell you more about that another time. For now, though, you'll be listening to myself and Fiona talking about Surely Gravity's Law by Rainer Maria Rilke, the poem that's been a friend to Lisa.
So do you have a friend with you?
I brought two friends because I had a mass of friends clamouring at me last night, or going, take me, take me. And some that were saying take me, and I didn't even look at them. I said another time. So I brought two, and in the more or less the moment we have decided on Rilke. Rilke, my lovely man Rilke.
Would you mind reading it out loud for us?
Not at all.
Got it in the room.
I'd love to read it. How surely gravity's law, strong as an ocean current, takes hold of even the smallest thing and pulls it toward the heart of the world. Each thing, each stone, blossom, child, is held in place. Only we, in our arrogance, push out beyond what we all each belong to for some empty freedom. If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up rooted like trees. Instead, we entangle ourselves in knots of our own making and struggle, lonely and confused. So like children, we begin again to learn from the things, because they are in God's heart. They have never left him. This is what the things can teach us: to fall patiently to trust our heaviness. Even a bird has to do that before he can fly.
Thank you. When did you first meet this friend?
I believe I met this friend 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I knew of Rilke's poetry, but I hadn't really explored it. Then I came across this one. I think actually I came across it because I probably went to a poetry site and put the word trees in. Because I was developing a whole programme, so it could easily be 2 or 3 years ago. I was developing a programme about on the motive of Tree of Life. So I was looking for poems that had something about trees in. But this one particularly, so the first encounter was a bit like, it was speed dating, wasn't it? or whatever those other sites are,
Yeah.
But the more I sat with the poem, the more it was very beautiful for me. So, I think it's that phrase, if we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up rooted like trees. I just love that stanza. That just absolutely stands out for me. I could just feel it, we could rise up rooted like... It was joyous, it was strong, it was grounded, it was full of growth and hope and reaching out, and he's giving a solution as well, isn't he? Surrender is one, and this idea of the Earth's intelligence, which I do feel we've disconnected from that in the world. So, and I felt it in my body. I think I would say that. Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? When you feel it in your body.
And is it in the body that you feel that sense of surrender?
I think the feeling in the body was the rising up and the rooted. That was the real sort of, you could feel your emotions, or you could feel yourself rising up. And the idea of surrender then it continues, doesn't it? It continues right to the end, when he says, this is what the things can teach us, to fall. And normally, you would think fall would be like, that's terrible. That's dangerous. That's failure. That's weak, but that's the letting go, isn't it? That fall. I immediately had in my mind that I'd been watching some, I think they were swallows, they weren't quite fledglings at the point of, they'd fledged, but they hadn't flown the nest. And we were watching them going, go on, they were peering, and that image came up to me, that idea of teetering on the brink. And when they fall, and they do fall, and then their wings come, then they trust, So this idea of falling is more about trust. I think that answers your question. So, about trusting.
I really identify with the instead we entangle ourselves in knots of our own making.
Yeah. But actually takes an awareness, doesn't it, to go, that thing in which I'm entangled, or this feeling of being lonely and confused, if you work that backwards, that stanza, this feeling of being confused, and lonely, comes from a feeling of being in a knot and struggling, and I actually made it myself. So if we work it backwards, it's like his realisation of his own accountability for his own life, and I think that in itself is something to ponder on. So this friend is a very honest friend, you see, as well as a friend that inspires and holds out hope, and is a very observant friend, and a friend that has much wonder about the nature of gravity. And the amazing thing was when he says, only we in our arrogance push out beyond what we each belong to for some empty freedom. People would say, yes, there's too much technology. This is pre-space. This is pre-rocket, this is pre-space exploration.
It does feel very modern.
It does, doesn't it? Exactly so.
Yeah, it's not the friend that tells you what it thinks you want to hear.
That's right, or says never, and there are friends who say, well, never mind, there's poems that are friends that say, well, never mind, rest in this boat and admire the water lilies, and you think, oh, I can't think of anything better to do, how wonderful, but he's doing something else here, so, yeah. The friend that understands confusion and loneliness and accepts you if you are struggling.
Someone that goes there.
Yeah, he's there. He's been there, hasn't he? Been there and done it, as they say. The poem that wears the T-shirt. Also, just from the point of writing, I like the fact that it begins how surely and it ends can fly. There's almost like a bookend, isn't there? The how surely gravity's law. So you've got a law, you've got something that's sure and certain, and you end up with something that's sure and certain. Even a bird has to do that before he can fly.
And at the same time, it sort of encapsulates an idea that seems to run through it of, gravity's law, things being pulled down and the flying.
Oh yes,
and it's in the same way as it says we could rise up, rooted.
Yes.
It seems to have that happening.
Yeah,
quite a
that's
lot
the
through
balance, isn't it? But yes,
Yeah.
that's lovely. Yes, and that's right in the middle, of course.
Yeah, it's brilliantly structured, isn't it?
It is.
In a very
It
simple
is.
way.
Yeah.
But that's also, I think that's also part of how the feeling in the body happens, doesn't it?
Well, it is quite, and it is in terms of feeling things in the body, which is something I really want to explore a lot more myself. And I'd identified that feeling in the body was what connected me to the friend. I think it's full of very real and concrete things, stone blossom child, It's full of real things, it's full of concrete things, and he repeats in whatever the German translation is, it's probably Dinger, but things twice. So, it is very grounded, even though there is this thing, you're right, about flying and that and there are ideas in there, but it's still, there's a lot of groundedness in it.
I'm interested in the physical experience that you had with this poem.
Yeah.
And you're also at a point where you're wanting to explore kind of understanding and experiencing things through the physical.
Yes, yeah. My physical response, you see, it's from reading out loud that I connect, not just by going on the page. I have to read out loud. Then I feel bits of the poem, not all of it necessarily, but then I feel it in my body, then I'm connected to it.
I mean, if this was my friend and if I was arguing with my friend, which I'm known to do, I might be kind of going, who are you to tell me my ambition or my striving is an empty thing? And are you telling me to stay in my place?
I think he's more going on about like a hubris, isn't he? Or maybe the empty freedom is like, it's that tendency to go, well, this is it, this is my direction, this is what I'm going to do. Right, it's like those expectations, that over planning, that, and it's always, and that speaks to me too, as though the friend is saying, remember when you thought that, and you planned that, and you got that, and you paid the money for that course, which is the family joke, all the courses I go on. It's like that old story of the person who goes around the world looking for treasure and eventually comes home and it's under his own hearth. So it's like that sort of, to me, it's that kind of, yeah. I know, I don't think he's saying, the woman's got to stand by the kitchen sink or something like that.
Oh, that's great. That's really, that's really helped me, because what we each belong to. Yeah,
but the belong to is like family, isn't it? It's connection. Yeah. It's that connection, that we're connected to the earth, we're connected, we are of it, we are of creation, we are created. the things that are in God's heart. That's in that penultimate stanza. Mm-hmm. They have never left him. But I think he explains it. You know, that I think that he patiently to trust our heaviness, because I find that a really interesting line, and I've questioned that. So I would say, well, what did you mean by our heaviness? You didn't say patiently trust our beauty, or why did you say heaviness? And I'm still asking that question. I accept it, but I still... or is it that I don't like the word heavy because of 21st century culture? I don't know. It's not a feminist poem, but it's not an anti-feminist poem either, is it? It's a love poem to God from a human creature.
And how do you, in your busy and humanly engaged life, how do you tend to kind of experience a connection, which you clearly have, to the Earth's intelligence or the natural? How does that happen for you?
It doesn't happen enough, and I think this is the point.
Yeah.
I think there is something I'm trying to get again that I did have.
Okay.
And I think that's partly why this speaks to me, that was there, because I have been busy, because I have operated in rooms rather than outside, you know, and because I am on the threshold making those changes so that I can have more of that being in nature and just being, not, and I climbed a mountain and ticked it off my list, or you know, I went for a walk because I was going to the shops or something, but just being. And I think that's something that's missing currently. And the friend is reminding me that there is much learning and intelligence and being and love and connection, belonging is there, and that it will give me, you know, well, it says intelligence, so give me that.
So are you like the children, beginning again?
Yes.
This idea that you've experienced it before, and you're kind of back in that.
Yeah, we begin again. I actually love those three words, we begin again, or the whole line. So like children, we begin again to learn from the things. I really like that. I think that's like resolving, isn't it? And also how wonderful that we can begin again. Like every day, actually. Every day we can wake up and begin again. What a gift. Then I say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you get older, you probably say thank you more. I don't know. Oh, another day, I say to the husband. So, no joy.
How surely gravity's law. How surely gravity's law, strong as an ocean current, takes hold of even the smallest thing and pulls it toward the heart of the world. Each thing, each stone blossom child is held in place. Only we, in our arrogance, push out beyond what we each belong to for some empty freedom. If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up rooted like trees. Instead, we entangle ourselves in knots of our own making and struggle, lonely and confused. So, like children, we begin again to learn from the things because they are in God's heart.
they have never left him. This is what the things can teach us: to fall, patiently to trust our heaviness. Even a bird has to do that before he can fly.
That was Fiona with the gift reading at the end there, in a translation by Anita Barrows and Joanna Macy.
And thank you to Lisa for allowing us to share the conversation with you.
I mentioned earlier that we were going to be doing some more exchanges in Manchester. So if you're listening and you live anywhere near Manchester, please do get in touch with us via the website if you'd like to tell us about a poem that's been a friend to you.
We're delighted that so many of you have found your way to the website and indeed the nominations page and been able to use the form there that invites you to tell us the title of the poem that's been a friend to you and one or two thoughts about it. So do have a look at the website and go online and make a nomination there. It's just great to be gathering the poems that have been a friend to people.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like there's a little bit of a community starting to develop around that, and it's just, yes, as you say, it's lovely to hear from everyone and get new poems in that we've not been aware of. So thank you.
And we do then list those poems on the catalogue page, so that's also something to go and look and enjoy if you're wanting to find some new friends.
We'll be back with you in about a month, but for now, thank you for listening.